I'm Bianca, 36, a mother and former financial advisor. My 15-year marriage to James seemed perfect until I discovered his ultimate betrayal involving our daughter's college fund. What he never expected was that our 12-year-old Sophia would be the one to expose his deception. This is my journey from blind trust to devastating betrayal to an unexpected triumph that came from the most surprising source in our family. Before I share how my child's brilliant mind outsmarted a calculating adult, let me know where you're watching from, hit that like and subscribe button, and stay tuned for a story about how a mother-daughter bond proved stronger than deception. James and I met during our junior year in college. We were both finance majors with big dreams of conquering Wall Street. I still remember the first time I saw him in our investment strategies class, confidently answering questions that stumped everyone else. His intelligence was magnetic, and within weeks we were inseparable. Our romance moved quickly. By senior year, we were planning our future together. 2 months after graduation, with our first entry-level positions secured at different financial firms in Manhattan, we tied the knot in a small ceremony with close family and friends. We were young and ambitious, working long hours, but building our careers together. The first 5 years of marriage were focused on establishing ourselves professionally. James quickly climbed the corporate ladder at his investment firm, while I built a reputation as a detail-oriented financial advisor. We bought our first home in a quiet Connecticut suburb, a charming colonial with a big backyard where we imagined future children playing. When I turned 24, we decided it was time to start our family. Sophia arrived after a difficult pregnancy, but the moment I held her, every complication seemed worthwhile. James cried when he first held her, promising to give her the world. Even as a baby, Sophia showed signs of exceptional intelligence. She spoke in full sentences, early read before kindergarten, and had an uncanny ability to remember details adults missed. 3 years after Sophia's birth, Lucas joined our family. Where Sophia was serious and observant, Lucas was all heart and creativity. He filled our home with laughter and artwork, the perfect complement to his analytical sister. Our suburban life fell into a comfortable rhythm. James continued rising through the ranks at Richardson Financial, eventually becoming a senior investment director. With his increasing salary, we decided I could scale back to part-time consulting, giving me more time with the children. This arrangement seemed perfect, allowing me to keep my skills sharp while being present for school events and everyday moments. James appeared to be the model husband and father. He coached Sophia's soccer team on weekends, never missed Lucas's art shows, and meticulously planned our annual family vacations. Most importantly to me, he shared my dedication to planning for our children's futures. On the day each child was born, we opened college savings accounts, making monthly contributions that would grow over time. Education is the best gift we can give them, James would say, as we reviewed our financial plans each January. Our family traditions became the foundation of our children's security. Sunday brunches were sacred, with James making his famous blueberry pancakes while the kids set the table. Summers included 2 weeks at a rented lake house in Maine, where we disconnected from technology and reconnected with each other. Thanksgiving meant hosting both our families, with James carving the turkey and making his mother's stuffing recipe. I particularly remember Sophia's 10th birthday. She had just won her school's mathematics competition, solving problems meant for students years older. James surprised her with a telescope, knowing her growing interest in astronomy. "For my stargazer who's destined for the stars," he told her as she unwrapped it. That night, they spent hours in the backyard identifying constellations, while Lucas and I brought them hot chocolate. Sophia and I shared a special bond. She would often slip into my home office after school, sitting quietly with her homework while I finished client calls. Sometimes she would ask questions about my work, showing interest in financial concepts most adults struggled to understand. "Mum, can you explain compound interest again?" She'd ask, her bright eyes focused intently as I used examples she could relate to. Our support network included several close friends. Taylor, my best friend since college, lived nearby and was like an aunt to the children. The Williams family next door had children similar ages to ours, creating built-in playmates. My sister Meredith lived an hour away, but visited often, bringing cousins for the kids to grow up alongside. James's parents were retired in Florida, but made extended visits twice a year. With this solid foundation of family, friends, and financial security, I believed we had built an unshakable life, which is why I initially dismissed the subtle changes in James's behavior as simply work stress when they began. The later nights at the office, the distracted responses to the children's stories, the decreased interest in our weekend activities, all seemed like temporary symptoms of a challenging project. I remember the first time I felt genuine concern. Sophia had won first place in her science fair with a project on sustainable energy. When James missed the award ceremony due to a client emergency, the disappointment on Sophia's face planted the first seed of doubt in my mind. It wasn't like him to miss such an important moment. That night, as I tucked Sophia in, she asked a question that would echo in my mind later. "Mum, does Dad still care about what happens to us?" I assured her he did, but as I closed her bedroom door, I wondered what my observant daughter was seeing that I might be missing. The changes in James became more pronounced over the next few months. His phone became an extension of his hand, and he would take calls in another room speaking in hushed tones. When I walked in, conversations would abruptly end. His laptop password changed, and he began closing it whenever I entered his home office. Business trips increased in frequency and duration. "It's a big client," he would explain vaguely. "The firm is counting on me to close this deal." I noticed he packed his best suits, expensive cologne, and once a new tie I hadn't seen before. At home, James became irritable with the children over minor issues, snapping at Lucas for spilling milk or criticizing Sophia's piano practice as too loud when he was trying to work. This was so unlike the patient father they knew that both children began walking on eggshells around him. One Tuesday afternoon, Sophia came home dejected. Her science team had qualified for a regional competition, but James had forgotten his promise to help her prepare. "He said he'd help me understand fluid dynamics better," she told me, her voice small. "I waited up until 10 last night, but he never came home to explain it." While balancing our household accounts that weekend, I noticed several unexpected withdrawals from our joint checking account. 3 separate transactions totaling nearly $2,000 had no corresponding receipts in our expense tracking system. When questioned, James mentioned a client dinner, a gift for his assistant's wedding, and an office charity donation. The explanations seemed reasonable, but something felt off. The next month brought more financial inconsistencies. A credit card statement showed charges at restaurants on evenings James had claimed to be working late at the office. There were also charges from a high-end jewelry store on a day he'd said he was at a conference in Chicago. I called Taylor for lunch, needing a trusted perspective. Over salads at our favorite cafe, I shared my concerns. "It could be innocent," Taylor suggested cautiously. "Maybe he's planning a surprise anniversary gift." "When is your anniversary again?" 4 months away, I replied, the knot in my stomach tightening. And the restaurant charges were on weeknights when he said he was working late. Taylor reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Before you jump to conclusions, talk to him. 15 years of marriage deserves direct communication." That evening, after the children were asleep, I confronted James in our bedroom. "I've noticed changes," I began carefully. "You're distant, secretive with your phone, and there are expenses I can't explain." "What's going on?" James sighed dramatically, loosening his tie. You want to know what's going on. Pressure is going on. The Wilson account is hanging by a thread. Johnson is breathing down my neck about quarterly projections, and instead of support at home, I get interrogated. He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I once found endearing, but now seemed theatrical. Not everything is about you, Bianca. Sometimes work has to come first. His deflection left me feeling guilty for questioning him exactly as I now realize he intended. The next day, a package arrived containing an expensive bracelet I had admired months ago in a store window. The gift felt like compensation rather than affection. Lucas began having nightmares that week, calling out for his father when he woke frightened. When James wasn't there, I would comfort our son, telling him Daddy was working hard for our family. The words felt hollow on my tongue. While organising James's closet one afternoon, I found receipts stuffed in a jacket pocket. They were for a women's scarf and perfume from luxury brands purchased on days James claimed to be working late. Neither item had been given to me. That evening, Sophia overheard an argument between James and me about the receipts. Later, she knocked softly on my bedroom door, finding me trying to hide that I'd been crying. "Mum, are you and Dad getting a divorce?" she asked directly, her analytical mind cutting straight to her fear. "No, sweetie," I assured her, pulling her into a hug. "Dad and I are just having some grown-up disagreements. Every marriage has rough patches. Is it about money?" she persisted. "I heard you talking about receipts." "Just a misunderstanding," I said, smoothing her hair. "Nothing for you to worry about." But her question lingered with me. Were the financial discrepancies more significant than I realised? As a financial advisor, I should have been monitoring our accounts more closely, but I had trusted James implicitly with our family finances, given his expertise. My wake-up call came at the grocery store checkout, when my credit card was declined for insufficient funds. With a cart full of groceries and Lucas asking loudly why we couldn't pay, I felt a flush of embarrassment and confusion. I used another card to complete the purchase, but my mind was racing. Our credit limit on that card was $15,000 and I knew we hadn't approached it. That night, after the children were asleep, I sat down at my computer, determined to get a complete picture of our financial situation. What I would discover would shatter the foundation of trust I thought our marriage was built upon. With my background in financial advising, I knew how to conduct a thorough audit of our accounts. I started with our joint checking and savings, downloading 6 months of statements. The irregularities were immediately apparent. Cash withdrawals ranging from $500 to $2,000 occurring 2 or 3 times monthly, none of which aligned with our normal spending patterns. Next came the credit cards. Our main family card showed restaurant charges at upscale venues. I'd never visited hotel bookings in town on nights James claimed to be working late, and several purchases from jewelry and lingerie stores. The pattern was unmistakable once I laid it all out in a spreadsheet. Most disturbing was what I discovered when I logged into our investment accounts. The children's college funds, which we had been building since their births, showed recent withdrawals. Sophia's account, which should have contained nearly $90,000 after a decade of consistent contributions and growth, now held just under $30,000. Lucas's account had also been reduced from approximately $45,000 to $15,000. My hands trembled as I printed the statements. These weren't just ordinary marital deceptions. James had stolen from our children's futures. When James returned home that evening, I confronted him with the stack of financial documents. "Can you explain these withdrawals from the college accounts?" I asked, my voice steady, despite the rage and fear churning inside me. James glanced at the papers, his expression carefully neutral. "It's just a temporary reallocation. I found an investment opportunity with an exceptional return rate. The money will be back in the accounts within 6 months with substantial growth." Without discussing it with me, "That's not how we agreed to handle the children's funds." He shrugged, loosening his tie. "It was time-sensitive. I made an executive decision as a financial professional. You need to trust my judgment on this." What's the investment? I pressed. It's complicated, he hedged. A private equity situation through work. The paperwork is at the office. His explanation was plausible on the surface, but felt wrong. James and I had always discussed any changes to the children's accounts, adhering to a conservative investment strategy for these sacred funds. The next day, I called my sister Meredith, who had always been skeptical of James's charm. He's lying, she said bluntly after I explained. No legitimate investment would require emptying accounts secretly. You need to find out what's really happening, Bianca. How? He won't tell me the truth. After a pause, Meredith suggested a private investigator. I know it sounds extreme, but you need facts, not more lies. Initially, I resisted the idea, but after another week of James's vague explanations and growing financial concerns, I made the call. The investigator, a former police detective named Diana, took my case with compassionate efficiency. Financial deception in marriages follows patterns, she explained. Give me 2 weeks to follow the money and your husband's movements. Those 2 weeks were agonizing. I maintained a facade of normalcy for the children, while my insides twisted with anxiety. James continued his pattern of late nights and distracted parenting, seemingly oblivious to my investigation. Diana delivered her report on a Tuesday afternoon while the children were at school and James at work. The evidence was devastating. Dozens of photos showing James with a younger woman identified as Amanda Lawson, a junior associate at his firm. The timestamps on the photos corresponded exactly with nights James claimed to be working late or at business events. The photos showed them dining at expensive restaurants, entering hotels, and in one particularly painful image, James shopping for jewelry with her, his hand resting intimately on her lower back. Diana had even documented James withdrawing cash from an ATM before meeting Amanda, explaining the mysterious withdrawals. Based on the financial records you provided and my observations, Diana concluded, it appears your husband has been financing this relationship with funds from your family accounts, including the children's college savings. I sat numb as she continued her report, detailing how James had been seeing Amanda for at least 7 months. The affair had escalated quickly, from workplace flirtation to a full-blown relationship conducted in plain sight, just not in mine. When James returned home that evening, I confronted him with the bank statements again, not yet revealing I knew about Amanda. I want the truth about the money, James. No more investment stories. His face hardened. I told you it's a temporary situation. Why can't you trust me on this? Because I checked with your firm. There is no special private equity opportunity being offered to employees. You lied to me. Panic flickered across his face before he regained composure. It's not through the firm officially. It's a side opportunity that Greg from accounting told me about. Stop lying. I slammed my hand on the table, my patience exhausted. I know about Amanda. The colour drained from his face. What are you talking about? I placed the investigator's photos on the table one by one. I know you've been having an affair with her for months. I know you've been spending our money, our children's college funds, on hotels, jewellery, and dinners with her. James collapsed into a chair, his confident facade crumbling. It's not what it looks like. It looks like you stole from our children to impress your girlfriend. What part am I misunderstanding? He ran his hands through his hair, no longer the confident financial executive, but a cornered man. Work has been so stressful, and Amanda understood. It just happened. The money, I'll put it back. I just needed to look successful to her. You needed to steal from your children's future to impress your mistress. My voice broke. What kind of father does that? As we argued, I heard a sound at the doorway. Sophia stood there, her face pale, clearly having heard enough to understand. I immediately tried to shield her. Sophia, honey, please go to your room. Dad and I need to talk privately. Is Dad stealing our college money? She asked directly, her gaze moving from me to James. James stood quickly. No, of course not, sweetheart. Grown-up finances are complicated. Mum's just confused about some investments I made. Sophia's eyes narrowed slightly, her analytical mind clearly processing the conflict between our statements. Are you getting divorced? The blunt question hung in the air. James looked to me, seemingly expecting me to preserve the family image as I always had. Instead, I knelt to Sophia's level. I don't know yet, honey, but I promise whatever happens, you and Lucas will always be taken care of. After guiding Sophia back to her room, I returned to find James gathering his wallet and keys. Where are you going? I demanded. I need space to think. This conversation isn't productive right now. As he headed for the door, I called after him. The college funds, James. I want them restored immediately. He paused without turning. I'll figure something out. After James left, I collapsed on our bed and finally allowed myself to break down. The sobs came from deep within years of trust, shattered in a single afternoon. Later, a soft knock at my door revealed Sophia, her expression serious beyond her years. Mum, are we going to be okay financially, I mean? The question stunned me. While I was drowning in emotional pain, my 12-year-old was worrying about practical matters. We'll be okay, I assured her, making room for her on the bed. I have my own savings and I can go back to full-time work. What about college? I heard you say Dad took our college money. I struggled with how much to share with a child, but Sophia's maturity and direct questions deserved honesty. Dad made some poor decisions with the college funds, but we'll rebuild them. Your education will always be my priority. What I didn't expect was Sophia's next question asked, with the precision of someone much older. Mum, can you show me exactly how the college accounts were set up? The account structures, access protocols, everything. Why do you want to know that? Because knowledge is power, she said, simply quoting a phrase I'd repeated to her since she was small. And I think we need all the power we can get right now. The next morning, I told the children that their father would be staying at a hotel for a while. Lucas burst into tears, but Sophia remained eerily composed, asking practical questions about how our daily routines would change. That afternoon, James returned to collect some clothes. I confronted him again about the college funds. I need specific answers, James. When will you replace the money you took from the children's accounts? He sighed dramatically, as though I was being unreasonable. I told you I'll handle it eventually. Things are complicated right now. Eventually isn't good enough. Those accounts represented security for their futures. James's expression hardened. If you're so concerned, why don't you replace the money yourself? You could go back to full-time work. His callousness stunned me. You're the one who took it. For investments, and yes, some personal expenses, but everything got mixed together. It wasn't like I specifically targeted their accounts. As we argued, James's phone rang. He checked it, then said he had to take the call and stepped onto the patio. Through the window, I could see his expression soften as he spoke, a smile playing on his lips that I hadn't seen directed at me or the children in months. When he returned, I asked point blank, "Was that Amanda?" His hesitation confirmed it before he answered. "Yes, and there's something you should know. She's pregnant." The words hit me like a physical blow. Pregnant, 3 months along. We're planning a life together, Bianca. I was trying to find the right time to tell you. While emptying our bank accounts to prepare for your new family, the pieces suddenly fit together. You weren't just spending on the affair, you were building a financial cushion to leave us. James had the decency to look away. I would never abandon Sophia and Lucas. I'll support them financially. With what? The money you already stole from them. This isn't productive, he said, collecting his bag. I'll have my lawyer contact you about separation terms. Get out, I whispered, then louder. Get out of this house right now. After James left, I sat at the kitchen table trying to process this new betrayal. Not only had he cheated and stolen, but he had created a new family while still pretending to be devoted to ours. When I looked up, Sophia stood in the doorway, her expression unreadable. "He's not coming back, is he?" she asked. "I don't think so, sweetheart." She nodded slowly. "Did he really take all my college money?" "Not all of it," I assured her. And whatever happens, I promise you'll go to whatever college you want. Can I see the account statements, the ones showing what Dad took? Her request surprised me again. Sophia, that's adult business. It's my future, she countered, and I'm good with numbers. Maybe I'll see something you missed. Reluctantly, I showed her the simplified statements highlighting the withdrawals. Her finger traced the transaction dates, her brow furrowed in concentration. These all happened on Fridays, she observed, every 2 weeks. She was right, a pattern I hadn't noticed. Why would that matter? Patterns are important, Mum. You taught me that. She looked up, her eyes showing determination beyond her years. Can I see how the accounts were originally set up, the paperwork? I retrieved the account establishment documents from my files, watching as Sophia pored over them with intense focus. Dad set these up when I was born, she confirmed. We both did. It was our gift to you starting on your birthday. But his name is listed first as account holder, then yours. That's just alphabetical James Anderson before Bianca Anderson. Sophia nodded thoughtfully. And these notifications about transactions, where were they sent? To our joint email for financial matters, which James primarily managed. So he could hide the withdrawal notices from you, she concluded, her voice hardening. He counted on you not checking regularly because you trusted him. The insight from my 12-year-old was both impressive and heartbreaking. She understood not just the mechanics of the deception, but the emotional manipulation behind it. The following day, I consulted with divorce attorney Patricia Goldstein, bringing all financial documents with me. Her assessment was sobering. The good news is that in Connecticut, assets acquired during marriage are considered marital property, subject to equitable distribution regardless of whose name is on the account. The bad news is proving exactly what James took, and for what purpose may be challenging. I have bank statements showing the withdrawals, I explained, but can you prove those specific funds went to his affair rather than legitimate family expenses or investments gone bad? Without a paper trail directly connecting the withdrawals to his mistress, he could claim he was making investments that failed. So he could get away with stealing from our children? Patricia's expression softened. Not entirely. The court will consider his actions during divorce proceedings, but recovering those specific funds might be complicated without clear documentation of intent. As I feared, James became increasingly hostile as separation proceedings began. He claimed financial hardship due to supporting 2 households, though I knew he was primarily living with Amanda. When I mentioned the college funds again, he exploded. For God's sake, Bianca, let it go. The money's gone spent. I'll pay child support as ordered by the court, but stop fixating on those accounts. His admission that the money was spent rather than invested confirmed my worst fears. But without proof of exactly how it was spent, my attorney warned that recovery would be difficult. Meanwhile, I discovered more financial deceptions. James had emptied our emergency savings account 2 months earlier. He had also taken a loan against his 401k, reducing another safety net I had counted on for our future. During his weekend visits with the children, James attempted to manipulate their perception of the situation. "Your mum is being unreasonable about money," he told them, not realizing I could overhear from the kitchen. "She could go back to full-time work if she wanted to, but she's choosing to make things difficult." Lucas, too young to fully understand, simply asked when Daddy was coming home, but Sophia watched her father with new eyes, no longer the adoring daughter, but a careful observer. After one such visit, Sophia approached me with an unexpected request. "Mum, can I see the notification settings for my college account? Why? Just curious about something." I logged into the account portal, showing her the settings page. Sophia studied it intently. "Can you show me the email notifications section?" I navigated to that page, revealing that transaction alerts were indeed set to go to our joint financial email. "Was there an option to send alerts elsewhere when you set it up?" she pressed. I believe there was an option for multiple notification recipients, but we just used the joint email since we both had access. Sophia nodded thoughtfully. And when the account was created, was there anything about mobile or app notifications? Those would have been newer features. I don't recall specifically. The account was opened 12 years ago before most financial institutions had sophisticated mobile alerts. A small smile played at the corner of Sophia's mouth. Thanks, Mum. That's helpful. Over the next week, Sophia spent unusual amounts of time with my brother Eric, who worked in cybersecurity. I assumed she was finding comfort in her uncle's stable presence during this turbulent time, but I later discovered they were discussing something very different. During dinner one evening, Sophia made a comment that struck me as odd. Digital footprints never really disappear, do they, Mum? Even when someone thinks they've covered their tracks. I suppose not. Why do you ask? Just something Uncle Eric was explaining about his work. She took a bite of pasta, then added casually, Dad thinks he's smarter than everyone else. That's always been his weakness. Before I could question this insight, Lucas spilled his milk and the moment passed. But Sophia's words lingered in my mind. James became increasingly confident as mediation approached. During a phone call about logistics, he even threatened to fight for primary custody. The children need stability, he argued, and with my income, I can provide better for them than you can as a part-time consultant. The same income you used to fund your affair and new family, I countered. You're turning them against me, he accused, especially Sophia. She barely speaks to me during visits. Maybe she's forming her own opinions about a father who steals from her future. The conversation ended with James threatening to play hardball if I continued to poison the children against him. Shortly after, Sophia asked if she could spend an afternoon with James alone without Lucas. Are you sure? I asked, concerned. You've seemed uncomfortable around him lately. I need to ask him some things, she said simply. Alone. Despite my reservations, I arranged the visit. When James brought her home 3 hours later, Sophia was unusually quiet, but had a determined set to her jaw that reminded me of myself. How was it? I asked after James left. Informative, she replied cryptically. The next evening, Sophia approached me with a startling request. Mum, I want to attend the divorce mediation. Absolutely not, I responded immediately. That's no place for a child. I have information that could help, she insisted. Important information about the college funds. I called Patricia to discuss Sophia's request, putting the call on speaker so Sophia could participate. It would be highly unusual, Patricia advised. Mediation discussions can get contentious and aren't appropriate for children. Tell her why you want to be there, Sophia, I encouraged. Sophia spoke clearly into the phone. I have evidence about what happened to the college funds that Mum doesn't know about. Evidence that proves exactly what Dad did. Patricia's interest was piqued. What kind of evidence? I'd rather show everyone at once, Sophia replied, but it's definitive. After further discussion, Patricia suggested a compromise. She could come to the building with you, but wait outside the mediation room. If we need her information, we can bring her in briefly for that specific purpose, then have her step out again. The night before mediation, I discovered Sophia's journal open on her desk while putting away laundry. A glimpse revealed pages of meticulously recorded dates, times and snippets of conversations with her father. I realized she had been documenting his contradictory statements and admissions for weeks. When I asked her about it, Sophia simply said, I wanted to remember exactly what he said and when. Details matter in situations like this. What exactly are you planning, Sophia? I asked directly. She met my gaze with surprising confidence. Trust me, Mum. Dad made a mistake thinking I wouldn't understand what he did, but I understand perfectly, and I have proof. The mediation session was scheduled at a downtown office building on a rainy Thursday morning. My sister Meredith agreed to watch Lucas, while Sophia came with me, bringing her tablet and a small folder of papers. Uncle Eric accompanied us for technical support, as Sophia mysteriously explained. James arrived with his attorney, Martin Caldwell, looking confident in an expensive suit. His expression darkened when he saw Sophia in the waiting area. "What is she doing here?" he demanded. "This is completely inappropriate, Bianca." "She won't be in the room," I assured him. "She's just waiting outside." James's attorney ushered him inside before he could argue further, but not before I caught the flash of concern in his eyes at Sophia's presence. The mediation began with standard opening statements. James's attorney presented him as a dedicated father who had made some personal mistakes but remained committed to his children's welfare. He proposed a custody arrangement heavily favoring James and minimal financial support, claiming James had limited resources after the separation. Patricia presented our position focusing on James's financial deceptions and the stolen college funds. My client is seeking full restoration of the children's educational accounts, in addition to appropriate child support and equitable division of remaining marital assets. Martin Caldwell scoffed. "While we acknowledge Mr. Anderson made some unfortunate investment decisions with jointly held assets, there's no evidence that he specifically targeted the children's educational funds for personal use. These accounts were simply part of the family's overall financial portfolio that experienced losses." Patricia placed bank statements on the table. The systematic withdrawals tell a different story. "Withdrawals for family expenses during a difficult financial period," Caldwell countered smoothly. "Unless you can prove otherwise, these were simply cash flow decisions during a challenging time." As they argued, the mediation room door opened slightly and Sophia peeked in. The mediator noticed her first. "Excuse me, is that one of the children?" she asked, pointing toward the door. Before anyone could respond, Sophia entered, followed by Eric. "I have information about the college funds," she announced clearly. James stood abruptly. "This is completely inappropriate. She needs to leave." The mediator looked to both attorneys. "Is there a reason the child is here?" Patricia nodded. "She claims to have relevant information about the disputed accounts." "This is absurd," James protested. "She's 12. What could she possibly know about financial accounts?" Sophia stepped forward, surprisingly composed. "I know exactly what happened to my college fund, Dad. I've always known." The room fell silent as Sophia placed her tablet on the table and opened a folder of printed emails. "When I was 7, she began, her voice steady. "Mom and Dad taught me about saving for college. They showed me my account and explained how it would grow over time. Dad set up the official account notifications to go to their joint email, but he also showed me how to set up a secondary notification to my tablet email. So you can watch your future grow," he told me. James's face paled as Sophia continued. "Every month I received notification emails showing deposits. I saved them all in a special folder labeled College. Then starting 7 months ago, I began receiving different notifications. Withdrawals, not deposits." She handed the mediator a stack of printed emails. "These are all the transaction alerts I received showing exactly when money was taken from my account and exactly how much." The mediator reviewed the documents, then passed them to both attorneys. The emails clearly showed transaction details, timestamps, and amounts matching the bank statements Patricia had already presented. "This still doesn't prove how the money was used," Caldwell interjected, though less confidently. "I have that too," Sophia replied, turning to her uncle. "Uncle Eric helped me recover something else." Eric stepped forward with Sophia's tablet. When Sophia told me about the withdrawals, she also mentioned text messages she had seen on her father's phone during a recent visit. James stood again. "This is an invasion of privacy. Sophia asked to use your phone to play a game during her last visit with you," Eric continued calmly. "While using it, she saw text messages between you and someone named Amanda, discussing using the kids' money for a down payment. She took screenshots and emailed them to herself before deleting them from your sent folder." Eric displayed the tablet showing text exchanges between James and Amanda. "James just moved another $5K from S's account. Will transfer to our house fund tomorrow." Amanda, are you sure that's safe? What if B notices James? She never checks. Too trusting. By the time she figures it out, we'll be settled. Amanda, what about your daughter's college, James? I'll set up something new for her later. This is our future now. The mediator and attorneys reviewed the messages in silence. James sat frozen, his confident facade completely shattered. But the most dramatic moment came when Amanda herself unexpectedly entered the room, her pregnancy visible under a fitted dress. I was told there was an emergency involving James, she explained, looking confused at the assembled group. The mediator began to explain that there must have been a misunderstanding, but Sophia spoke first. You're Amanda Wright. Did you know the money for your new house came from my college fund, the one my parents started the day I was born? Amanda's eyes widened as she looked from Sophia to James. What is she talking about? Martin Caldwell attempted damage control. This is a private mediation. Ms. Lawson, you'll need to wait outside. But Amanda had already seen the text messages displayed on the tablet still sitting on the conference table. James, tell me those aren't real. Tell me you didn't steal from your own child to buy our house. James's silence was damning. I thought the money came from your investment bonuses, Amanda continued, her voice rising. You said you were financially secure. I can explain. James finally managed, but Amanda was already backing toward the door. I need some air, she murmured, one hand protectively over her stomach. This isn't what I signed up for. After Amanda left, the mood in the room shifted dramatically. Martin Caldwell requested a break to confer with his client. Their earlier confidence evaporated. When mediation resumed 30 minutes later, James's demeanor had completely changed. He agreed to all our terms, full restoration of the college funds with interest, substantial child support, and a fair division of remaining assets. He also dropped his bid for shared custody, accepting a standard visitation schedule instead. As we prepared to leave, James approached Sophia, his voice low. You set me up. The game on my phone, the screenshots getting Amanda here somehow. Sophia met his gaze steadily. I learned from you, Dad. You always said I was smart with details. I just paid attention to the ones you thought I wouldn't understand. In the elevator down to the lobby, I finally asked how Amanda had known to come to the mediation. Sophia smiled slightly. I found her work email when I was on Dad's phone. Last night, I sent her a message from a temporary email account saying there was an urgent financial matter involving James that she should know about with the mediation address and time. I figured she deserved to know the truth too. I looked at my 12-year-old daughter with a mixture of amazement and concern. That was incredibly brave and clever, but also a huge risk. Not really, she replied, with the confidence of someone much older. Dad taught me about calculated risks. The evidence was solid, and the worst that could happen was that she wouldn't show up. As we reached the lobby, I hugged her tightly. When did you get so grown up? When I had to, she answered simply. The months following the mediation were challenging but healing. The divorce was finalized with terms favorable to the children and me largely due to Sophia's evidence. As ordered by the court, James made monthly payments to restore the college funds, though our relationship remained strained. Amanda left James shortly after the mediation, unable to trust him after discovering the source of their money. According to mutual friends, she moved back to her hometown in Oregon to be near family. When the baby arrived, I returned to full-time financial advising, finding that my personal experience with financial deception gave me new insight with clients. Trust but verify became my mantra, one I shared with anyone managing joint finances. Our family had to adjust to a new normal. We downsized from our suburban house to a comfortable townhome closer to my office. The children changed schools, which was especially difficult for Lucas, who struggled to understand why his father wasn't living with us anymore. We began family therapy sessions with Dr. Marshall, who specialized in helping children through divorce. Lucas gradually expressed his confusion and anger through art, creating powerful images that helped us understand his perspective. Sophia, initially resistant to therapy, eventually opened up about the burden she had felt as the family detective. "I shouldn't have had to be the one to catch him," she admitted during one session, "but I'm glad I could help make things right." Dr. Marshall helped Sophia process her complex feelings about her father. "It's okay to be angry at someone you love," she told her, "and it's okay to still love someone who's disappointed you." James's relationship with the children evolved awkwardly. His weekend visits were initially tense with Sophia, maintaining a polite but emotional distance. Lucas alternated between clinging to his father and acting out with tantrums when it was time to return home. Our support network proved invaluable during this transition. Taylor organized a meal train for the first month after our move. The Williams family helped the children maintain friendships from our old neighborhood. Meredith and Eric provided practical and emotional support, from helping with home repairs to taking the kids for fun days when I needed space to grieve my marriage. 6 months after the divorce, James asked to meet with me privately. At a coffee shop near my office, he offered his first genuine apology. "I convinced myself I deserved more than I had," he explained, staring into his cup. "The affair with Amanda was wrong, but stealing from the kids was unforgivable. I don't expect you to believe this, but I'm truly sorry, Bianca." "I'm not the one who needs to hear this," I replied. "Sophia and Lucas are the ones you betrayed most deeply." He nodded, looking older than his years. "I've started therapy. I'm trying to understand why I was willing to hurt the people I should have protected above all others." Later that week, James had a similar conversation with Sophia, acknowledging how his actions had forced her to grow up too quickly. While she didn't immediately forgive him, it marked the beginning of a more honest relationship between them. Gradually, our new family structure stabilized. The college funds were fully restored by the end of the first year, with the court-mandated interest payments. I established additional savings accounts for both children with transparent management and regular family discussions about financial goals. Sophia's academic excellence continued despite the family turmoil. Her experience led to an interest in both law and financial crimes, and she began talking about becoming a forensic accountant. "I want to help people who've been taken advantage of," she explained. 2 years after the divorce, I reconnected with Michael, a widowed father I met through a parents' support group. Our friendship developed slowly into something deeper, built on a foundation of honesty and respect that I now recognized as essential. When he eventually met the children, he approached them with patience and understanding, never trying to replace their father, but offering a different kind of male presence in their lives. 4 years later, I sat proudly watching Sophia graduate as high school valedictorian. From my seat, I could see James in the audience applauding his daughter's achievement. Our relationship had evolved into a civil co-parenting arrangement, focused solely on the children's well-being. He had eventually married Amanda after reconciling, and their daughter, the children's half-sister, was now a toddler. In her graduation speech, Sophia spoke about resilience and integrity, without directly referencing our family's journey. "Life will test your foundations," she told her classmates. "What matters isn't that you never falter, but that you find the courage to rebuild stronger than before." As we celebrated afterward, Sophia hugged me tightly. "We made it, Mum," she whispered. "We did." I agreed, marveling at the poised young woman she had become. "And your college fund is intact and growing ready whenever you are." She laughed, the carefree sound I had missed during those difficult years. Who would have thought my tablet notifications would change our lives? That evening, as I reflected on our journey, I realized how much we had all learned. Trust is precious, but verification is wisdom. Children understand far more than we give them credit for, and sometimes the greatest strength comes from those we thought needed our protection. If you've experienced betrayal in your own life, know that healing is possible. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong. Document everything. And remember that even in your darkest moments, unexpected allies may emerge to help you find your way back to light. Have you ever been in a situation where someone underestimated your knowledge or abilities and you proved them wrong? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that they're not alone in their struggles. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember that even after betrayal, a meaningful life filled with trust and joy is still possible.